Hey, welcome back to the Fortitude Show. It's your co-host, Jake Havron, here alongside my beautiful wife, Emily Ford. And we brought in this guest here today, Raees Mohamed, because we actually got referred to him when we were in a situation that we needed lawyer help. And it was a situation with being online and a whole debacle of not knowing what to do. And this man came in to really give us this guidance. This was over a year ago, and now here today, we have seen his works on social media, on helping over 1,300 entrepreneurs really save their face, their character, fraud, deception, all these things that he understands more than anyone else. And so you're going to want to listen in, especially if you are just getting into entrepreneurship. Maybe you're already majorly successful, or maybe you're not even in this world, but you want to learn the ins and outs of what's going on. We're not going too nitty gritty where you're going to just glaze over, but you're going to really hear what it takes to do business the right way. You're going to understand the difference between perspective and perception. And Raees is really going to dive into that. He's going to talk about, his works with what he's doing with what was once just almost like a joke of a page, BallerBusters back in 2017 to now. They're doing amazing work, really helping people not get scammed, not get deceived. All these people you might see in the public facing, they're really showing the reality of what that is. And Raees plays a big part of that, going through the actual legal attorney work on that. So there is so much to dive into. All I can say is listen with open ears, because the last thing that you want to do is think that everything is A-okay until it implodes. And you're going to learn some tactics and tips and tricks to really make your business fortified. Make the way you have relationships with clients and prospects have fortitude between that. And we're just so honored to have him here. So it's the Beard Lawyer on Instagram. It's Mr. Raees Mohamed. And without further ado, I'm so excited to bring you to him on this show. Here we go.
When we found BallerBusters, we're like, I got so passionate about it, and I actually started telling a lot of my friends about it. But let me back it up a minute. I didn't know you were a part of BallerBusters. So I found you through my publicist when, and again, not so naive to so many things. We've learned so many lessons along the way. But I just started working with photographers, doing brand deals. I don't know why I didn't think about having paperwork and signing certain things. But what happened to me is someone started using my images, making claims about something, and my character was on the line. And I'm like, what do I do? This narcissistic person is making all this stuff up. I'm like bawling. And my publicist was like, there's this man in Arizona, and he understands all of this. And I'm like, who? She's like an attorney. And I'm like, oh, is he just going to charge me?
It was so foreign.
And he was like, no, Raees knows everything about this industry. And, some of the best people we have in our life, we've gotten because of word of mouth. We get on with you, and then you're just like, here's the deal, boom, 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 boom. And it was such a peace of mind thing, but also a major lesson for us. And that is how we found you. And then I find you on the internet, and I'm like, dude is making serious change in our profession. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful that you're here.
Thank you. No, that's great. Yeah. That is actually how we met.
Yeah.
That is actually how, that's the truth.
That's the truth.
Before we knew you were big time.
Yeah.
Just a small.
And then I go down, I call myself a little private investigator. I go down the rabbit hole, and I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
the universe works in mysterious ways. It's just people that are meant to work together. Actually.
Yeah.
But BallerBusters, you know all about them. You've been following them for a while. So they started as a page in 2017 as a joke. Actually, it was supposed to be just satire and something funny. And eventually, people were sending GMs about, hey, I've been scammed. And one of the first busts was a fake watch guy, and it's easy to pretend to be someone else when the cameras are rolling, or even in business. But it takes a certain critical mass of people to ask questions. But you get to that critical mass unless you get to a scale. So you can keep defrauding people and being fake and saying one thing, doing another for your whole life without ever getting busted, until there's some structure behind, hey, who is this person really?
Right.
And that's what BallerBusters turn into. I'm not personally BallerBusters, right? But I'm part of the team.
And I bring the attorney side, the actual like legal, like paperwork document, like the structure. So it's not just people just making claims, like you actually have evidence, right?
There's a ton of diligence, like the amount of diligence that goes into, hey, is this accurate? BallerBusters doesn't just publish something because they got a DM saying, hey, this is a scam or I lost money. We don't know the story.
Right.
A lot of resources go into. There's a team of people that go and do the research, interview people for weeks and weeks before a word is said. And that's what I love about it, because that's how lawyers are supposed to work too, is we do our diligence. Just because somebody takes a position with something and is sitting across the table from you doesn't mean what they're saying is 100% right. And this is where the topic of, perception versus perspective, that's like my life, is perception versus perspective. Everybody has a perception. You walk into a room, you're giving off a vibe of how you want to be perceived.
That's right.
Right? Or you follow people on social media, you perceive them to be a certain way. They're standing in front of a Rolls Royce calling in. They're always traveling, fancy watches, fancy, food and drink, and oh, this person must be successful. You don't know that they're massively in debt. None of their relationships are working out. Their business is awful, but they want you to perceive them to be a certain way, and they're managing that. The perspective is what professionals bring, right? Like you guys, what lawyers bring, what I bring to the table, what BallerBusters brings to the table, which is actually we have receipts. We actually know, right? When clients come to me about reputational issues, I'm like, listen, right now what people are seeing is a perspective, is a perception of you, because somebody went online, a troll, and said, you're this way, Jake is this way, Emily is this way, trust me, I have this. We can actually do a more impactful marketing campaign if you want, by actually producing receipts of what's true, because they're managing the truth, they're trickling it, may not even be true at all. And that's where perspective comes in. Like, people call me just to get a legal perspective on something that's happening in their business or launching a business. Like you're talking about, like stitching up the paperwork, right? How would you know if you're dealing with people you trust that one time, or a new relationship, a new business relationship comes out and it's totally not the same? Like, how would you know, or how would you know what your intellectual property rights are? What images can you use of someone else's? Intellectual property theft is rampant. It needs to be addressed, but you don't have that perspective.
Right.
You have to talk to a professional who's going to say, hey, did you know that you can actually control this because you're the original creator, you're the author for purposes of copyright law? Like, you actually have leverage here. So, but anyway, BallerBusters and I had an interesting intersection years ago when we met. Like, we're doing the same thing. Like, you need to be a part of the team. So at one point, BallerBusters was getting refunds of almost $250,000 a week for victims of scams. Put that into perspective. For free, no charge, nothing, no publicity. Nobody even knows these numbers. I'm telling you guys on your show. Because the number of e-commerce scams were at that scale. So that's where e-commerce is both sexy and is also very, very weaponized.
And these are like the type of scams where it's like they build out an e-com store for you, they promise X amount of income, and we just plug and play. Is that like what you're talking about with the e-com scams? That's like majority.
I got pitched for this.
Yes, 100%. This is one of them. You got pitched for something like this? That's one of them for sure. And it's the most popular one. Because there's an allure. Again, going back to success. Everybody perceives a success. Like, oh, this guy, has a Ferrari and all the same
in his jet.
Right? How do you get this money? Oh, scalability. I mean, Amazon. You could be an Amazon affiliate, or we could start your Shopify store. It's super easy. You can get products from Alibaba and you can have all this margin. And I'm looking at it just cringing, punching my face. Like, really? You can do that, but nobody knows the story. Like, they might see you and, oh, Emily's so successful. Like, we could do that. I have, I'm better on camera, or I'm better on stage, or I'm smarter than her. They have no idea what the backstory is. Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what I love about what you share here, and we got a lot of things to unpack, is, there's this fine line, but yet a massive gap between people that are entrepreneurial, because it's a very, like, there's a lot of different ways to be entrepreneurial, right? Most of them are solopreneurs in the sense, And there's a low barrier to entrance because that's what it is. You create your own thing. There's real estate, there's network marketing, there's solar, there's any different avenue.
Yeah.
My question for you is, how do you navigate, especially starting off? Let's say we have an aspiring entrepreneur listening to this. They don't see themselves as these big time scammers that we've seen on BallerBusters and all that, and it's starting to implode, but they are trying to do things the right way. And they want to start, but they're also capped on resources to start. What would be some like guidance as a lawyer yourself to protect themselves, but also do business with integrity, like for someone that's kind of still starting off?
Yeah, that's a great question because it has a lot of angles, right? I mean, barriers to entry you can use to your advantage because all you need is, you need this internet connection, and the world is in front of you, right? So for me, it's about passion. Every entrepreneur I've ever worked with, 1,500 founders, right? So far, 14 years of practicing law. One-on-ones with these guys over time, common element is they're really passionate about something, whatever that something is. It could be sneakers, it could be leather products, it could be beauty, it could be faith, it could be seeking the truth, whatever that is. And it's usually never money. Like 1 to 10% of the time is somebody saying, I'm really passionate about this because it's going to make me a lot of money, because it never works that way. You have to solve a problem. So to go to your original question, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, what problem are you solving? Like, whose life are you making easier? If you can't answer that question, then you need to stop and sort of reevaluate. Even if you're, flipping sneakers, like, there is a distinct problem to solve. Certain markets, people can't get certain shoes, or you can't hit a certain price point. Maybe you can identify a really nice shoe at a really nice price point because you have knowledge of that industry. You could say, I know that shoe costs $50. I could sell it reasonably, to somebody else for $20, and I got it for $10. Excellent. Do that at scale. You got to get to that point. So really don't fear this idea that I'm passionate about X, but I don't know how to make money on it. Explore that. The money will follow. Okay. Obviously you have to come up with a business plan, but people tend to want to think like an MBA first with no experience in anything at all. And that's where the vulnerability comes, where you get paired with some mentor who's like faking, trying to teach you, but they don't have the practical experience, right? So an easy 1, 2, 3 is, for listeners who want to launch something, is find your passion. You don't need any money. First, start with create some content around it. Like, social media is a huge blessing. It is a whole universe of opportunity. Talk about it, if it's makeup or beauty. And if you're not good at it, find somebody who's good at it and call them. It's funny because many of the people who are really good at something are willing to teach you. Just reach out to them. It doesn't have to be that they're selling a course. Contact them. Say, hey, you know what? I'm just starting out. I'm broke. I don't have any resources. I can't pay you. Can I talk to you every so often? I have plenty, I started my law firm right out of law school. Like the second I got my license, I was hitting the road, right? And now, and I teach as an adjunct at ASU College of Law. And so my students were like, hey, you started in 2009, the armpit of the legal market, like banks were closing. How did you do it? I'm like, yeah, I can tell you everything I know. I want nothing more than for you to be a 7-figure soloist or build a beautiful brand, because it doesn't take anything from me. Why don't you do this? Work for me. I've hired so many of my students for 6 months or a year to work with me, work on my cases, but you have to put in the work. And that's what I think people nowadays don't understand, because they see it on social and they think, to go back to our steps, right? Have a passion, create content, but they don't understand the iterations you have to go through. Life is all about the reps.
Yes.
Right? Like, you're not a weightlifter if you go to the gym and do one deadlift. And you can deadlift a lot of weight once. Like, we don't call those people weightlifters. Right? We call them genetically gifted.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a weightlifter, you're in the gym 5-6 days a week. You're doing the rep range, the hypertrophy training. It's going back to your point, sleeping on a mattress.
Yeah.
How many people slept on the floor or slept on their friends' couches because they're putting every resource into a passion to get it off the ground? That's really a missing ingredient.
100%. And that's the story that needs to be told more. That's what I feel like, because of going back to perception, I feel like a lot of people paint this beautiful picture of I'm living this life on a yacht, or I work from home, and they're really missing the truth of what it really takes. Oh, this client just returned their product. This is what I'm dealing with today, and I feel like, I teach a lot of personal branding. I'm so passionate about it. When I'm always trying to teach my women, like, yes, teach us what you know when you're an authority in this space, but please bring in the honesty, what you're really going through, the transparency, because at the end of the day, that's what makes you human, and that's what is going to make people really want to do business with you in the long run. And I feel like a lot of people put this facade on, and it's just like they never show their cards. They never tell the realness of what it takes, and that's the problem. I think that's why so many people are like beating themselves up. Oh, I'm not this yet. I'm not successful.
This is actually a very astute point, because I'll tell you a little anecdote. So when I started my firm, so it's 2009, everybody knows what was happening in 2009.
Yeah.
Banks were closing. You couldn't withdraw $10,000 cash out of your bank. You had to wait 7 to 10 days because, right, securities back, mortgage-backed securities crashing. So bankruptcy was hot. Creditors' rights were hot. I'm like, dude, no way. I would rather bang my head against a wall and do bankruptcy law. I'm not passionate about it, but I'm passionate about entrepreneurship. I always have been. So I said to myself, I was dead committed to representing entrepreneurs. And the internet, Facebook, you could sign up without a .edu email around these days. This is what's happening. So I saw an intersection. I'm like, I feel like the internet's people are going to do business on the internet. Amazon's taking off. This is before Jeff Bezos had a $500 million yacht, right? So I'm like, this is something I can explore, but I have to represent the small guy and gal, like people who are just getting out. I feel like I can offer value. So printed my business card, and I kid you not, and this is where the sausage being made is. My week was this: 30 hours a week was just meeting people and talking to people. It was just, what do you do? Tell me what you do. Are you willing to talk to me? Lunch, coffee, breakfast, go into your office. How did you solve this case? How did you get this case? The other 30 hours was marketing myself at the same time. That's 60 hours. I haven't touched a client. I haven't billed an hour yet. Then I would have to find the 20, 30 hours to do the work. Okay, so those are 90 hours. No joke.
Wow.
For the first several years of my practice as a soloist, I started, my parents' bedroom. They had a desk. Eventually, I had an office in a very swanky area of town because of the managing the perception versus perspective.
Yeah.
They would see my address on the card. I'm like, oh, this guy must be successful. And I was to a degree, but I didn't own the building.
Right.
But in law especially, lawyers tend to look at this from an elitist perspective. And this is where entrepreneurs need to learn this lesson, which is you can manage these things, but you have to be gritty. You have to get in there, get your nails dirty. Eventually, one of my mentors was like, you keep coming to me with all these amazing cases. First of all, where are you getting them from? Second of all, why don't you do the work and do it under us? You can actually be a partner in our business. So I went from being a soloist to 10-lawyer shareholder firm. I always had my own business. And then another lesson you learn in business, who you're associated with makes 100% of the difference, right? You always hear these quotes of, oh, you're the average of your 5 friends. But there's truth to it.
Yeah.
Either the people you're with, you're going to be anchored down to them, or you're going to catch wind and go sail with them up.
Yeah.
You're not going to be at a baseline all the time. You're going one direction or the other.
So on that topic, what are your thoughts around seeing nowadays this whole smorgasbord, especially in the entrepreneur space, the idea of association? Emily and I, we have conversations many times about really protecting ourselves in that sense, because we've been naive once again in the past. We're like, you know what, whatever it takes. But then when we start to see these people start to get imploded, whether it's through you guys, through just themselves, and we're like, the power of association, how important that is. Just like, what's your take on that, or what have you seen in that entrepreneurial space for that specific reason?
This is where it's hard, because you might share a stage with somebody you don't know.
This happens to me all the time, and he's trying to protect me.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. But then as soon as I start to sniff it out, my discernment, I'm like, oh, I see it now. But there's been so many times where I'm like, I didn't know that this person was. And
Yeah. Well, here's the catch-22. Especially if you speak on a panel and there's a seminar, right? And some of these people who organize it, you don't really know. They're like, hey, Emily, we love your brand. Come speak. We're putting together an event. You speak with the organizer. You're not speaking with all of the people who are going to speak with you.
Right.
So you don't really know them. They're a name. Oh, they're great. Okay, it looks all right. But it happens. And so what I tell people is two things. For the creators like you never know. Do some diligence. Like, don't just show up to an event and speak without seeing who am I affiliating with. It's never going to be perfect, but do some diligence. Second thing, people who are watching. For the people who are watching shows on stage, podcasts, panelists, just assume two things. One, they are not aligned at all with their backstory. They just have one common message. Just start with that assumption. There's a common thread. They're not using the same blanket. It's a thread, okay? If you watch and you go to events with that, it's a little easier to understand context because it's very easy to get lumped in with everybody. Like, I won't name names, but I see, who's on the cover of this flyer that's circulating. I'm like, oh my God, I'm confident this person doesn't know who this person actually is.
Uh-huh.
And then the other side, there are clout chasing people all the time. People who just want to be associated with you because they're like, Emily is a successful brand or Jake has a successful brand. I'm kind of a scammer and I know I am. So if I hitch my wagon to you guys, I can improve the optics of my ethics. Again, the perception versus perspective thing.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to happen, right? I mean, so diligence, people ask me all the time. So my clients, like, you have me, you can call me like, hey, do you know anything about this guy or gal or this brand? Because they are chasing us pretty hard, or we got invited to speak at an event and we don't want to be associated with, evil folks scamming people. What do you think? I get those calls and I'm happy to have the conversation. It's privileged, right? For us, I can tell you whatever I wanted to do. But people watching and people who are launching, be careful who you associate with.
And it's powerful because if you're listening right now, you might be like, well, I'm not in that position that maybe Emily and Jake are, or these other people. But it's like, we wish we would have known sooner this idea of association and how powerful it is. Because if you truly are playing a long game in this world and you want to create real impact and not just make success for your own self and play short game, you have to look over the length of decades, not just a few years.
Right.
Because a few years, you're like, oh yeah, I could go into that event. I'm with all these other great people. Oh, shady, whatever. I'm still going to get like massive exposure. It's like, is that worth it in the long game? And at first, we didn't even think about that. It was just ignorance. We just didn't know. But the moment we really got clear of like, well, there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of deception, and we want to really make big impact in this world, we have to start saying no to things, even though it could have been a fast track.
Yeah.
We have opportunities pitched to us about different investments and all the crypto stuff that you've seen in like
traders.
And because people see that we have influence, and it's exciting to see the potential of what's possible. But it's hard to say no to that. Now we have really good discernment, but we've really been in positions where we're like, oh my gosh, like everyone else is doing it. Why don't we do this? And I think for you listening, and this is so good to have you, Raees, sharing this, is what is the big picture for you? Do you just want to just make a quick buck and maybe screw people over? Then fine, maybe that's your way, but it's not going to last long. But if you really want, like if you're listening right now and you're a faith-driven, purpose-driven leader and you want to create big impact, it's things that like Raees, you're saying right now, which is you got to sometimes say no to those quick opportunities because at the end, it doesn't last.
It's it takes wisdom as an entrepreneur that you often don't have unless you live the life and you're a professional and you're launching into something else. But particularly if you're young, you absolutely need to understand that, number one, the big picture brand building thing that you're trying to do. Amazon, I just love this example. Jeff Bezos, once upon a time, there are people alive who had a book delivered to the house by Jeff Bezos. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And he believed in his vision. He had his, hatchback or his Honda Accord, whatever he had, because he saw, look, the internet my brand is going to be huge on the internet. I want to scale. I don't just want to sell my wife's books as it so happened to be. I want to be the marketplace. eBay existed at that time.
Mm-hmm.
He was competing, and he was no one. But he was big picture thinking, right? All of these founders are big picture thinking. And it's very hard to resist a quick result.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are an entrepreneur, or even if you're starting as a side hustle, to say, you know what? Geez, I could get paid 10 grand to be on this crypto podcast and push this, this coin, this offshoot of Ethereum or this, and I can make a ton of money. It's actually a funny one I'm going to just talk about. It happens to be that so many of the DMs that I get of, oh, hi, I see you have a good brand, beautiful woman, and then crypto. And I don't want to jump to a conclusion. Maybe she's wildly successful, but I'm not stupid and gullible. And I do my research and I'm like, I know what you're trying to do. And so I'll play back a little bit. Oh, you have a great coin. What are you trading on? And the messages stop. And it happened on TikTok to me. It's happened on Instagram to me, where they drop in because they know that certain amount of communication within 5 to 10 minutes, and they know if they've hooked this fish or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What happened, by the way, to all these crypto people the past year? It was so quiet. Now it looks like they're all coming out of the woodworks.
Bitcoin cratered and then started to come back. And so, again, I'm not dogging. I have investments in crypto.
Yeah.
But it's not the short-term trades, or it's not to sell you on paying me money to make you money.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was the viability of that notion that I can make you money in crypto, this applies to real estate too, dissipated when Bitcoin, the most common one, started cratering. Because now all you had to do is type in BTC into Google and you pulled the veil off of that one. So it's like there's a seesaw effect, right? The more transparency there is in something, the less likely you are to get scammed. On the internet, there's virtually no transparency.
Wow.
I can DM you, I can say who I am. I can buy 100,000 followers tomorrow. I can buy likes. I mean, think about it. I can stand in front of fake cars and homes. I can borrow clothes. I can put on a whole persona. You would never know, and say, put me on your show. And I can swear, I can look you in the face and swear to you, say, this is the best product. You will make so much money. Look at me. And I can sell the sizzle really hard with no substance. And that's where it's a blessing, but it's also it's more powerful than a nuclear weapon, because I can control what you see and there can be virtually no substance behind it. And that's why every entrepreneur, to your point, Jake, should think about, what is my long-term, what am I building? What is my brand about? For me, I want to help as many people as possible with these kinds of issues, like online reputation issues, launch a business, start something and be in love with it and grow it. I'm infatuated with it.
So let me add to that, because this is interesting. What you just said right there is what a lot of people have the illusion to say as well. A lot of these people you call out, they say they want to help as many people. They say they're going to do whatever it takes.
Yep.
But where's the fine line? How do you see what is maybe the influence of what they're really doing versus manipulation of they're being deceptive? Because what you just said, they would say that as well.
100%.
What's the difference?
As a matter of fact, before I answer your what's the difference, I'm going to add on top, a layer on top of what you just said.
Yeah.
Bernie Madoff was one of the most loved guys.
And for those that don't know Bernie, just give a little context.
Bernie ran the largest scale Ponzi scheme known to planet Earth, 40, 50 billions or more.
Yeah.
Large institutions.
Like in Wall Street,
sophisticated investors gave him money. This is not a guy who's knocking on grandma's door. He did that too. But institutional wealth advisors were scammed by this guy. And he started with again, perception versus perspective, a trading house. He did make money for people, but he became greedy. And he saw that, you know what? I have goodwill currency in my name. People have I've shaken a lot of hands. I've had a lot of dinners. So when I go to, the 1-year-old's birthday party and I meet mom and dad, they know who I am. They will kiss my feet. People have that power, and it's abused, right? It's abused in many forms. It's abused in business, abused in faith, right? But this guy, the sinister, right? At one point, the amount of money that was coming in couldn't justify the paying of returns. Classic Ponzi scheme. And his goodwill was so powerful that when the SEC investigated him twice, the Securities and Exchange Commission is the Ivy League of the Ivy League of the Ivy League prosecutorial people in the country, okay? They didn't see a problem twice with Bernie. And they went in, allegedly. This guy was running a complete smokescreen for years. So what I say to your question is, if they can do it, any Tom, Dick, and Harry could do it at a lesser scale. So you should question everything.
Yeah.
You know, you should question. Elizabeth Holmes with Theranos is another one for those of you who are listening. It's such a sexy entrepreneurial story, especially for women who don't feel they can be leaders of a publicly traded company.
Was she the one that was like kind of like serial killer vibes?
Serial killer vibe. She was the one in Time magazine. She always had
black. Yeah, she was looking like Steve Jobs. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
with her voice and everything. And everything about this woman was fake. I can say that sitting here. Everything. She managed her perception extremely well. She was very good at deception. To the point, again, Walgreens got duped. Sophisticated institutional investors who have exited and turned publicly, college startups to publicly traded companies were duped by her. To the point when she was trying to fulfill her contract on the blood testing machine that she said was breakthrough, they were really running it on a standard machine. There was no substance. This is what I'm saying. There's no substance to it. A sizzle, and down to the relationship she had to get investor money. I mean, it's disgusting. It makes you sick.
Yeah.
And yet she was on the cover of every Forbes, Time magazine, every wealth.
Oh my word.
Like the scale that these people are doing it and did it successfully will blow your mind. But it's because it plays with a certain part of the human, something very visceral, which is a desire to be successful.
Yeah.
And desire to be associated with success. And so I spend a lot of time counseling people. Like, if you're doing this just because you think you have a quick answer or a quick buck you can make, you're going to hitch your wagon to somebody who's already running down this, you're doing it for the wrong reason. Question it, and question them why they're approaching you with an opportunity. It's hard. There's no magic.
What would you say on the belief of like values and just the deep integrity of who that person is, like to their core? Like, how does the essence, like how does that play into that trust factor? Is that relevant? Do you also can get manipulated because people know how to manipulate values? Like, what does that mean to you when you're trying to do business with someone?
Yeah, I think the first thing is you have to know that you're being true and you're being ethical to yourself and to your very first customer, right? You have to go out of your way. And the value proposition is if I act with integrity, it will come back to me.
Mm-hmm.
It always does, right? Every scam eventually gets busted. You just may be on a very bad losing end of it. But my point is you have to operate with ethics from day one. You have to really be seeking value from day one and offering real value from day one. And people now can, again, we talked about some extreme examples of where people can sniff it out, but generally people can sniff it out. Maybe it takes some time. I'll give you examples, right? Going back to the work that you need to do. If I'm late on a deliverable, I need to take a slap from a client.
Yeah.
If I promised you something by a certain date and I didn't, and it's happened to me. We get busy. We all have personal lives.
It's happened to us too. Yeah.
You have to get slapped a little bit. Entrepreneurs, many of them who want to be the Instagram lifestyle, they can't handle it. Because to them, it's like, wow, to be successful, I have to have grit and I have to be angry and I have to fight with my client. No, you messed up.
Yeah.
Just take it on the cheek.
Yes.
And you will be loved even more.
It's powerful.
So you spend time apologizing to people. You know what? I'm sorry. I didn't deliver on this. Stay with me. I'll refund you some money or all of it. I'll still finish the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've worked with like contractors on renovation projects in real estate where that happens. Like, dude, we're running behind, or the cost or this plumbing issue. But they own it and they're transparent. And that's where transparency and entrepreneurship will take you very, very far.
Yes, it will.
And it's powerful you bring that up because we'll be the first to say we've had situations where the deliverables haven't been met on the time. You hit it on the head. And, as much as you want to create justification, you have to look at it in their point of view and be like, they didn't get it met. And, it's that fact of you messed up, but fix it and create a solution so it doesn't happen moving forward. Right. Like,
That's right.
And I just want you to touch in this point of, because you have some big name people on BallerBusters you're exposing right now. And you talk about, because you highlight their past. And it's important for us to see the past, especially when it's corruptive and deceitful. And they're like, in court sharing things that they've done wrong. But people would say, don't judge people in the past because there's second chance, third chance. But where is the line on giving? Because, I come from a Christian background. I love studying theology. I love studying biblical truth and more than just the spiritual side. I'm very spiritual, but I love to understand the theology. And, there's a fine balance between mercy and justice. And if we had a world that was only justice, then it would be just, you'd be robots. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't live your life. We would be, just following rules. But if there was only mercy in this world, then actually injustice will run rampant, because the moment we don't get the slap on the face of that justice, now people can go and do worse things.
Yep.
And so there's that beautiful balance. It's the highway of mercy and justice. And so when we look at people, we want to have mercy for their past, but if we keep having mercy for them, they will always do injustice moving forward. So in your eyes, where is that line when we see these people? We want to maybe give them a second chance, but they keep doing the same thing over and over again.
This is a great question. So in legal theology, we have this concept of rehabilitative justice and punitive justice on two extremes. The rehabilitative would be like, you've heard this, you're guilty, but you're insane, and so you're not going to get prosecuted. We're going to give you therapy and medicate you. That's an example of in contemporary times. And when I was an intern for the AZ Attorney General, I went to these hearings where people did some grotesque things, but they were put in a mental institution, not behind bars in the same way. And so, these are sex crimes, these are murders, but they're insane, and so they're not a standard person. They didn't make decisions. So the justice system, the way we have it, said, we want to punish you, but it's going to be leaning towards rehabilitative versus punishing people. An example is the American dude that went to Singapore many years ago and spray painted a bus stand. He vandalized it. Homeboy got caned. He got whipped in public because you do not do that in Singapore. You don't do it. That's pretty punitive. They didn't try to rehabilitate him. My son, it's okay. Just clean it down. We're like, homeboy, no. We're going to make a public example of you because you do not do that here. And you knew that. Wow. You did it. So my take on it is I appreciate the religious theology. And to go a little spiritual, I really believe in forgiveness. Mm-hmm. I also believe in an ultimate justice, like beyond this life, beyond, like, I believe in an afterlife, and I believe there's justice. I believe in heaven and hell. And I believe that you do good work. You can ask for forgiveness at any point, right? Like John the Baptist, this story is amazing. Like the concept of baptism and starting over is something I really believe in. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing is in business, it's different. It's different in business because if I keep stealing from you and I say sorry every time, I'm not an ethical person. Mm-hmm. I don't have integrity, right? And so there is a sort of fight between ultimate justice and afterlife, and then how you conduct yourself with people here.
Yeah.
And, is that person sincere when they apologize about their past? It's hard as humans to gauge sincerity.
Yeah.
We're not good at it.
We're easily to see.
Yeah. It's not hard. Show me you've changed. It's like you need to do something, especially if you keep screwing people over and it's this trend.
No.
You got to really show me you've changed. And I think if you have high level of emotional intelligence, you can really see that person has changed and they've dropped their ego and there's transparency. But I feel like a lot of people, they hide, they secret keep, and that crushes your soul.
It's holding secrets for a long period of time does destroy you. It eats you from inside out. I'll tell you this, to answer your question, it's hard to gauge if somebody's sincerely apologetic. So some of these people on BallerBusters or even on my page that I've talked about, here's the thing that gets me. Without taking a name, if you have this past and it was criminal or you admitted that you've done these things, and then you say, I have changed, and we watch your conduct now, you probably should be wearing a striped white robe with handcuffs, just doing it a different way.
Because you publicly declared you changed, yet your actions still show your old past.
100%. 100%.
It's like a slap in the face right to the public of
100%. And again, many of these people very good at understanding what's visceral to success, to people who want success.
Yeah.
You hear it in young real estate agents all the time, actually, where you pull up to a home, beautiful home, there's a senior agent, you want to be the person, the gal or the guy to get the listing, $2, $3, $4, $5, $10 million listing. There's an allure. You see there's a nice AMG or a really nice G63 AMG wagon sitting outside. Like, oh, I want that car. It's got the matte black finish. You walk in, the guy's wearing a Patek or the gal has beautiful diamonds on. And there's an allure, like, what do I need to do to get these listings? And you don't know this person's been doing this for 20, 25 years. Or their dad or mom was successful and has a book of business. But that agent, the senior agent who sees that person pull up in their, purple Saturn with the plastic doors, right? I remember that car. They sold it. They marketed it saying, like, we're super light, and if you got a dent, it bounce back. Yeah. I'm a car guy. I know. I don't be embarrassed. There was a lot worse options. But they see the success and they're magnetized by it, and they're in a position to be taken advantage of now, because the senior person's like, oh, I could do whatever. I could tell them, hey, get me 10 leads and I'll give you a commission off of my 6%. If I double end it, I'll give you, 0.5%, 1%. They don't see anything ever. But that person needs to understand that you need to put in the work. It's good to get mentorship, but you also have to identify what you're getting out of this.
Yeah.
And I think with entrepreneurs, just as much as you have people who are sincere and they want to do things ethically, and they want to work hard, they also have to be cautious of red flags of being taken advantage of. You see it in I represent a lot of fitness influencers, content creators, and people with legit brands. The amount of work these people have put in to get there is unbelievable. You don't see that. You don't know that they were addicted to drugs, or they slept on the street, they were homeless, or they were orphans, or whatever their challenge was that propelled them to an insane work ethic.
Yeah.
Right. So it's hard. It is not the things that we're talking about. Notice there's no checkbook.
Right.
There's no checklist. There's no, let me give you the blueprint.
Yeah. The fact of bringing awareness, though, is a huge component, because before seeing BallerBusters and seeing the corruption, deception, we were just ignorant once again. But the awareness is what first then brings discernment. And, what gets my blood boiling is when I see these people that are manipulative. They understand human psychology. They understand, they read all the books on how to create their own culture, right? And then they start to bring in the religion game.
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite one.
Yeah.
And
they use God.
And they use, and I want to be very clear. Every single person that brings that in, even including ourselves, question what our values are, right? See the fruits that are coming off of our life and see the way that we act day to day. And internally, if you meet us, like question that, like, because we're very bold in our faith, right? So it's the same
finding
thing.
Faith is what has healed me and given me tremendous amount of integrity, and has helped me love people more. And if I had nothing, at least I have my relationship with God. And so I build my personal brand of just being real and who I am.
That's right.
But there's a difference when you're at a conference and you're like using it to try to sell your package.
Well, and you did tell it down.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like the God card. Don't put that out.
But you can see these people that, like, once again, most of them are probably on BallerBusters. They, and this is, once again, the hard thing is because you want to give them second chances. Maybe they had a coming to Jesus, coming to God moment, whatever it is for them. And it's like, I want to have grace, but then you're also like, they're probably using this. And so it's, what I want to ask from you, but I also want to just bring awareness around is be very, like, always ask questions. What is the intent? If they're using the God card, Yet you look at their life and they're still living everything against what they're preaching. They're still, being malicious towards other people. They're still swearing like profusely. Their brand speaks ego and significance, yet they're saying I just want to hear your insight on that, because I'm sure you see that all the time, and it really just gets at me, and I have to not let anger control me. But those are the few things that kind of are my pet peeves. But what's your take on that from what you've seen?
My belief is that church, synagogue, mosque, whatever, is not a marketplace. It should not be used as a marketplace because you're there for the opposite reason. You're actually there for something that can't be bought or sold, right? So people who sell this notion of come to Jesus but with a checkbook, it doesn't sit well with me. From my ethics integrity.
It's powerful.
And I don't think it sits well with religion and spirituality anyway. It's funny. Some of the deepest spiritual people that I know, they have no connection to commercial interest. They might be wildly successful, but they live their life in a way that if I lost this today, I could care less. This is fun for me. I enjoy the next sale. I love making millions of dollars. There's no problem with that. Be rich and be affluent. But if I lost it, doesn't take anything away from me. They are deep. That's the connection with God that we're talking about. Is like this is the ultimate bigger connection.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people that admire our speaking abilities because we're speaking, and they ask what does it take and all these things, and maybe we could help package up their speaking, but the actual work, they think that gigs are going to be handed to them, and they don't see, just like what you're saying, and you're constantly like on these calls. They don't see me on calls hours and hours a day. I have a VA that we're setting up emails I'm responding to, getting told no. Like, they don't see all that work behind the scene to get one corporate speaking gig, to get the ball rolling. And they think that because now we're speaking, well, they can do it too. I'm like, you don't see that work. And so I just love that fact of what you're sharing on that. I do want to touch one more point on what she shared, and then I have something I want to bring up on here. So network marketing, there are going to be a lot of listeners that are like, okay, well, there's got to be a way, because I can do this with integrity, and because you mentioned in the beginning, if you could find something that has a problem and bring a solution, whether it's a product, a service, something they're selling, how does someone that's listening right now build their network marketing base in an integrous way that is actually solving problems? Like, is there a way? Because there's got to be. There's still like companies up for 20, 30 years. They don't have enrollment fees anymore. It's actual real product. What's just your insights on that to let those people know that there is a way? They just maybe got to stop following the people that were doing it the wrong way.
Transparency in the upside. Where's the upside coming from? That's the first question. Are you selling a process that adds value through a referral fee only? That's your only value add? Then be transparent about that. Say, you're going to make money every time you mention, every time you sign somebody up, you're going to make money. Our products are garbage. Our products are our training programs, whatever. Just tell people. There's a reason why people buy McDonald's franchises. McDonald's is not healthy for you. It's because they get a ton of traffic. They own the best real estate. They offer a price point. Their drive-thrus are great. That's why they know that, right? It's the same thing. Affiliate and network marketing can be a dirty game. It's not always. You can absolutely do it ethically. Find the product or service and scale it. Test it. Do something really well. Have something that somebody wants.
Yeah.
Okay? If it's consulting, why are we paying you money? Like, people ask me this, right? Or they used to. Like, Raees, you just finished, it's transparent. You just finished law school. I just got my license. It's you can look it up. I can't hide that. You just got your license 6 months ago. Why am I hiring you? I got this question.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a new real estate agent, you just got licensed a month or two ago. Why am I going with you? You better have your rebuttal for that. This is real sales now.
Good.
This is not fake sales. This is real sales. So why am I coming to you? I'll tell you why you're coming to me. I'm one of the lowest price points. I'm not going to charge you for my learning curve. And I'm going to work as harder than anyone else. It's not going to cost you more.
Good.
It's a great answer, because my rate was like a paralegal rate. They're getting me. There's no 20 lawyer law firm, okay? And when they text, I respond. When they email, I respond. And it was $1,000 at a time. It was a few $100 at a time. People see, lawyers making all this money or your firm is this successful. Dude, it was, to your point, it's like a few hundred, a few thousand a time. And it built the trust. So you have to ask that question if you're an entrepreneur trying to launch, what is my value proposition? What is it?
Yeah. It's powerful.
If you can't identify it, then you need to rethink a little bit on what that is.
It's good. And I love your analogy because you got a degree. And most people probably aren't listening right now, majority, including us, we don't have degrees. What you could have done the wrong way is you could have hyperinflated your promises. And then what most people do nowadays is they hyperinflate the promise, but you kept it real. And I'd love to hear your take on this idea of there's people that you should trust because they have a degree, but there's also people you could trust because they don't have a degree, but they know how to create results. My own personal experience, I came from a degree, but not in the thing I'm doing now. I came from a nursing background. I come from the healthcare. I left nursing. I wanted to do something new. I wanted to help people in a different way. I did the most stupid financial decision you could do, go from a 6-figure job to being a personal trainer, getting paid barely anything. But I loved helping people in fitness, not knowing anything about entrepreneurship. Actually, Andy Frisilla was one of my very first podcasts I got recommended to. I was like, I hated reading books. I was like, why are you going to recommend me this podcast? It was one of my buddies. And I was like, I don't want to listen to a book. And he's like, it's not a book. It's like people talking. I had no clue what this was. But through getting thrown into the fire as a personal trainer, because I had a health background, I understood. I went and got certified. I had to learn how to be a businessman. I had to learn how to do sales, marketing, and it was only for personal training. Then I cap out, and I'm like max out at 8 people per day. I'm like, how do I help more people? Didn't know. Someone told me about this mentor idea. I thought coaches were free. I played basketball my whole life. Why do I have to pay for a coach? But I was like, I trusted the person that referred. And I actually learned and applied and did what it took and became an online trainer where I was able to help people all over. And they're paying me more, but they're getting more results. And it's like, whoa, I could do this. So I'm learning as I'm going. I'm actually applying what I'm teaching. And it came to a point where then I was, and this is where I'd love to just hear your insight on this, because like my story is not, a lot of people fabricate their stories to make it sound better because everyone's enthralled by a story. If Emily didn't sleep on a mattress and all these things, that would be the biggest con artist type of thing ever, because people love that. But you come to find out, because you've seen this firsthand, people lie about their stories. There's a big, major celeb, influencer, thought leader person you've probably seen.
For 3 years.
That lied about his whole upbringing.
100%. This one really annoys me. Yeah.
And so to continue the story arc, though, I start to work with a lot of high-profile people in their fitness that were traveling all over the world, and I start to pick up, and I'm learning from outside sources, right? We're in a beautiful state of life now where you can learn the same things you would with a degree if you go and actually do these programs, these trainings, you go to these different seminars that actually have substance, right? It might not be to the sense of like you're going to Harvard, but you can still learn business tactics and strategy. I could go and sit down and learn a program from you and learn law in a way where I don't go and become a lawyer, but maybe I could learn the abilities to bring that. So I'm learning these different things. And then finally I'm like, man, I think I really like helping people make money, but I'm not going to try to charge people because who am I? I had imposter syndrome. So I offered it for free and I got results, and I helped people in their sales and leadership, and specifically maybe a little marketing. I wasn't helping them with finances. I'm not a financial person. I knew my limits, but after enough results compounded, I was like, maybe I should offer this as one of my opportunities, this business consulting in a very specific way. And it finally got to a point where then I was doing that full time. So my belief behind this, I'd love to hear your insights on this, is that it's more about what you can create on results on a consistent basis versus any sort of background you have, sort of any place you come from. If you can create results and do it consistently, not just once in a while, but consistently, then we are in this economy where you can go create something from nothing. We are where Jeff Bezos goes from the job he once had to know how to create results, delivering packages to people and continually do that on a consistent basis, that now he has Amazon. What's your thoughts on that, of the degree versus, learning from, I guess you would say, hard knocks, but following that type of principle? Yeah,
believe it or not, this still applies in law, right? Because law is a business. Running a law firm is a business. I've been an adjunct for 12 years, and I see students with creme de la creme background. I mean, creme de la creme, like top number 3 in their class, number 1 in their class, undergrad, Harvard, Stanford. Then I see somebody who, on paper, I wouldn't, if I'm recruiting, I wouldn't look at their resume more than twice. And I see the results. In my program that I was a director of, it's all about practicing law. It's not about reading a book and taking a test. You interview clients, you write, you think like a lawyer, you solve problems, you present. You have to be a good orator, you have to be a good listener. So I'm teaching them these skills, and I see night and day results. So the paper stuff may be important for certain professions. You're not going to walk into Merrill Lynch and say, I went to community college.
That's right.
Work here. Maybe. I mean, there's a movie that Will Smith was in, right? I forgot the
Pursuit of Happiness.
Pursuit of Happiness. Thank you.
Yeah.
Where 1% of 1% can do that.
Yeah. Like being a doctor, being a rocket engineer, like there's certain things you do need a degree at. Attorney.
Yeah.
But the principle still applies, that the paper, like that degree, that check the box, only goes so far, because now you have to prove yourself, even in those professions where you need the degrees. So people who are listening who are like, look, I'm a dropout, or I have a community college degree, or I have a certificate, or I don't have anything. I'm just really, really passionate about art. Do that. Do it more passionately and better than anyone else. And put yourself out there. That's the other thing people don't understand, is you have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
So people who come to my house, people don't know it, but they come over and they see my artwork. Like, dude, you're a phenomenal artist. Like, it's a hobby. I don't put it out there. At one day, I might start promoting my art. I love realism. I can do like drawings that you would think are photographs. That's still I have. I'll send you guys some pictures.
Yeah.
But my point is, I'm not putting it out there because I'm not passionate about promoting it. Maybe one day I will.
Right.
But if you're an artist and you're a hungry artist, you need to be out there. You need to be drawing. There was a guy outside of my hotel on Newport Beach with an oil canvas in real time painting the beach. That is amazing. Like, how many people are seeing you? Put it on Instagram, do a live, talk about it, connect with other artists. People have been discovered today, being talented and working hard more than ever before. That's a huge message. I mean, do something so well that it's desired, and then put it out there and make people happy. But your point about teaching people how to make money, if you think about it, every person in this room is doing something to help somebody make more money. I do too, right? Videographers record, they are too, indirectly. Both of you are.
Yeah.
We're just packaging it differently. We're focused on the immediacy of our value add to you, right? If these microphones weren't set up correctly, you're not going to be happy when you listen to the final product. But we know before we walked in this room, the amount of, she was wiping the dust off the wall. Like, that's amazing stuff. That's detail oriented. That makes a difference, right? Those are things where, like, you have to wipe the dust off of the wall in your profession, of whatever that is. You need to be that person. Forget all the sexy allure of, like, seeing it. You can't, this is, I think, the disconnect. You can't pretend to be that without actually doing it.
It's so good.
And that's the fine line between marketers that boast, because it's good to boast from the hilltops as long as you actually are doing, or you have the thing that you're boasting, right? And the problem is too many people boast about things they don't actually either practice or they don't really have, correct?
100%. I can legitimately say I have personally advised at least 1,200, probably closer to 1,500, because I counted my files before I gave that number, because lawyers have to be accurate in their marketing. It's an ethical requirement, believe it or not.
Wow.
So I counted my files, and I stopped counting after a certain number. I can legitimately say I've had one-on-ones with X number of people, and I've learned from them as much as the value they've learned from me. I can say that. I don't need to sell my skill set more than that. You're going to hire me because you feel like we have a connection, you see my background. But now, if I'm a good marketer, I can 10x that.
Yeah.
I can actually say I'm building my brand. I can talk about the knowledge that I have or the skill that I have and offer it at a price point that makes sense for the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
But people want to do that latter part without having done the forward.
That's right.
Straight up.
And it's complete failure.
It's like a nice, and for people that are starting off in business, it's like a nice balance where you grow and actually build something, and then you market a little bit above that, but not beyond. But then when you market above, you grow behind that. So it's like almost like this oscillation where you do need a market, but you also need to have substance. You build the substance and you market more. Some people just build a tiny substance and then they market 100x and they create this giant chasm of what they're actually saying, and it's all just fraud.
I knew how to do 3 things when I graduated law school. Okay, here's the 3 things. I could manage my time really well. I could take large amounts of information and reduce it down to the key points. And I did know how to draft certain documents because of my program, but I ended up co-directing because I believed in it so much that I taught it for 12 years, which is, you need a partnership agreement, I can do that. I don't need to pretend and say, oh crap, now I got to go and study and I lied to this client that I could do it. I know it. How many iterations of that from day one to now? This is what the entrepreneurs need to hear. You got to do it once, screw up, get smacked, talk to somebody, show it to somebody, and then present it to the client. Don't do garbage work and unless you're going to be apologizing to everybody. But getting good and getting excellent takes a lot of iterations. So it seems like doomsday when you think about, well, how do I get so, like, I'm okay, but I'm very passionate. That's okay. Start small. Do it for somebody who you trust and that they trust you first, and say, look, be patient with me. I had clients where I told them who had successful software companies already. I said, dude, like, give me business. Like, help me to help you. I will work nights and weekends for you. And they did. They were like, okay, don't charge me more than this. Don't spend more than 2 hours on that. Go back and redo this. I still, to this day, my first client who's still with me now, taught me so many lessons.
Love it.
You know, like, literally told me, literally said to my face, you want to be a better lawyer? Cut the college habits. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, oh, you're answering emails at 2 a.m. You know how sloppy that makes you look? I was like, oh, that's profound. You want to be the person that is, right, that looks and is well managed. Because depending on your business, if you're a business coach, you want to be sloppy. So again, you have to live it. You cannot fake it. If you're going to scale it, you just have to.
This is so good. I mean, you're getting me jacked right now because I'm like, I can feel myself, because I have spoken for free for over a decade, and now I can charge what I can charge. But it's from the reps, the 10,000 hours. But then also, I really want you guys to hear what we're talking about. It's like becoming so passionate about something that you're willing to stay up and learn about it. You're willing to just get so good at it. You're willing to do it for free. And then eventually you go pro after putting in the work, and then people will pay you a great amount of money for it. But I think it's that time in between. Like, I heard you talking on another podcast, and it's like, you want to be so good that people just, they want to work with you. Like,
that's right.
I feel like the ego, the look at me, it is so gross, honestly, where it's just like, I'm the best. Like, if someone has to keep telling you they're the best, they're probably not the best. You know, you should be so good at what you do. It's just like watching heaven in motion. And it's just, people just they want to work with you. But the only way to really get there, there's a little bit of gifting, I believe, on your life. You're activating in your gifting. Obviously, you have a gifting of intelligence, right? But then you also you've got to nurture that, work it, that eventually, again, like, you can get paid a great amount to do what you love.
100%. And looking back, 14 years ago, and just thinking, like, starting my own law firm out of law school, it's like the craziest idea. Everybody that I asked 10 senior people, they all said, you're crazy. Go work in bankruptcy, go get experience. I can't look at myself in the mirror every day and say, I'm a bankruptcy lawyer.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, by the way. Any area of law you want to do it. But for those who are listening, that's where the passion is. And you're going to have to do things you don't want to do. Like, even now, there's certain cases or certain things that happen in large 6-figure cases, right? Where 7-figure cases, I'm just like, I really don't want to do this. But I have a client who's signed up, who's believing in me, who needs my help. They're in the door. I need to do it. I have to do it. I don't have a choice. And I think with entrepreneurs, we do this as well, which is analysis by paralysis. You need to just do. Like, you cannot overthink. There's going to be iterations. Like you said, how many stages were you on? How many, trainees did you have? right? Where you had to go through a volume. People don't understand volume. They don't understand the hours, the work. That's real entrepreneurship. I could say there's one common trait almost every single client in 14 years. And again, some of these are college kids to CEOs of public companies or have exited 9-figure exits. Common characteristic that I see is they have this grit and they have this belief, and it's an obsession. You can't take it away from them. They're just like, I don't care what you tell me, Raees. You could tell me that I'm stupid, but you need to tell me how to do XYZ legally because this is my passion.
Yeah.
And you need to protect me because this is what I'm going to do. And you can't tell me no.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's powerful. Yeah, this is so good. I think this is going to have to be one of those things where we bring you back in the future when we talk more.
Next time?
We talk, and because I already know there's going to be a lot of questions that come in. By the way, if you have a question or you're curious about something specifically with Raees, you can message us on Instagram because these will be compiled for probably a future episode. I already was playing that in my head. I was like, we need to just go through some specifics, like almost like a little mini boot camp masterclass on law. But if there's someone right now that's like actually in a dilemma, whether they need to get paperwork set up because they're about to launch a new agency and they don't want to get screwed over, or they're dealing with something like how do they actually work with you? Because we personally worked with you and we're very blessed and we have many more things that we need because we're launching a new company and we want to have the paperwork right. So we're coming to you.
Now we want to, we will.
We will. Like we were coming to you, but for some, so we put our name behind you, and that's why you're here as well because we respect you, and you're more than just a lawyer. You actually have a really big heart, and that's a huge thing. And I'm sure you listening, you can feel that from him. He has values, he has character, he has quality. Like there's a lot of lawyers out there, but we are inclined to you because we could feel that genuine nature. And I hope that's the same as well here. And so, but there are people that are needing help. How can they get help from you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, there's a lot of things that we do at my firm. You know, we do the general business stuff, you know, the contracts, the relationships, the vendors, licensing agreements. Our focus and our niche, of course, is like the online world. The internet world is our domain. Nobody does it better. Nobody has done as much as we have. So that's where we add the most value. But even if it's, hey, I'm launching this business and I just need help on legally, like what do I do? Do I create an LLC? Do I take a corporation? Do I form in Delaware? Do I form in Wyoming, Nevada? I can walk you through all of that. No problem at all. People can, you know, on our website, I'm sure we'll link stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but on rmwarnerlaw.com, there's a contact form. They're welcome to DM too. We have the law firm page, RM Warner Law. I have my page, Beard Lawyer. And
yeah, all that will be technical.
I love
it. Thank you.
Yeah.
But you know, it's the key thing is you have to be fearless when it comes to going after what it is.
Yeah.
You have to be like, even if you can't be an Uber driver unless you have insurance and you have a license. Like that's the way I look at it. There's no profession where you don't need a baseline of things done. Every entrepreneur needs to be like, somebody needs to advise me on risk.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm going to scale. I should do it in a way that it's not going to cause me to be flushed down the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
And talk to the two advisors. And that's what I'm here for.
So they could click the link below or message you and set up like a consultation?
Absolutely. The first step is like making sure I can advise you and know you on what you're trying to accomplish. And we do that in a 30-minute session, making sure that you get value and you can decide if I'm the right person for you and vice versa.
And that's how it worked when we got referred because we were so lost. We had no clue. We didn't have any representation before. We had all the thoughts like, oh my gosh, is this going to cost so much? Like, can we trust this guy? Is he really for us? And all these things. But we got on a consultation because we trusted the person that referred us. And we were just blown away by the value. And you said to us so clearly, the things you're sharing is not just what you can find on Google. You're giving us very custom specific insight for our situation that made us feel like, one, he understands us, two, he knows what he's talking about, but three, he has a solution. Mm-hmm. And the solution was viable, and then we can move forward with that. So that was what we experienced. And so hopefully if you are needing that, there is a reason why he is the Beard Lawyer, because he is someone that you can really respect.
Beard Lawyer, talking about branding and marketing. That's so good.
It is a real beard. Right?
It is it's growing. And what I want to say is so often it's like we're like, oh, we wish we had it. Like you do. a lot of people just dive in. They need now money, or they're just ready to go. And you're like, well, it's just like someone thinks they'll never get divorced, right? It's just, and hopefully you don't get divorced, but I'm just saying, like, then you're like, crap, I should have thought about these things. I can say that, like, you need to have documentation, working with people, paper signed beforehand. Like, you got to think these things through, because it's painful on the other side otherwise.
The one thing I can say without any, I can say unequivocally, business is brutal. If you're going to be good and you want to be successful, whatever it is, it could be a barber shop. It is brutal because you are offering something that's personal. You're getting something in exchange for it, and you're giving something up in exchange. There's an exchange. In the business world, is a brutal world. Like, how can you wouldn't ride your bike without knowing how to ride your bike. You wouldn't do it off a dangerous cliff without a helmet and knee pad. I mean, so when I see business owners, some people sit down in my chair like, oh, I've been in business for 2-3 years. And we talk through what they have and they don't have. And at the end of the meeting, they're just like, I cannot believe I didn't know any of this stuff. Like, how you wouldn't know unless you explored that. You know, it's like at a certain point, you don't want to do your own taxes. You're not going to rely on just QuickBooks or Quicken to do your automated. You're going to talk to CPAs and tax it. But those are things you graduate into. But start talking to people now. Set it up. Maybe it's too early for certain things. But something as stupid as your brand protection, your trademark, or like if you're going to be putting yourself out there, what intellectual property do you own? We do collabs. Who owns what?
Oh, geez.
Most people couldn't tell you.
Next episode, you know? we do need to go into that.
Of course.
Yeah. Wow.
Powerful.
That's major. Yeah.
It's been an honor, my friend.
Hey, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah,
To come and stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm happy to be here.
No, we acknowledge you. We appreciate you with everything you're doing. You've allowed us to internally grow, to seeing your works publicly make us, even though we don't express it to you, we're like, we need to fix this. We need to update this. We need to grow this. And that's a powerful thing because that's your works working without you even knowing. And
it is so internal because you do look at some of the people you're exposing and you're like, is there any part of me in this cluster F? Is there any part of inside of me that because I've been in the echo chamber, that I've just collected this along the way, that maybe I'm acting in a certain way? Like, it's caused me to internally think about things and go, am I doing something that is not right? So that's what you're doing subconsciously. And that's what we need more of, because again, all these people, like, you know, they're getting their information from the loudest guys right now, and not just guys, but the majority of them are guys. Okay, they're getting all their information from that echo chamber.
Oh, there's some loud fake women.
And there is loud fake women too.
They say they're the best speaker in the world, and they're on like two stages a year.
Don't even get me started right now.
Anyways, continue.
Okay. It's just, okay, I'm not going to go down that road. But that's the echo chamber.
Yeah,
so they're now breeding these little minions.
You're right.
And then they're all running around, and then it's this big circle jerk thing. And it's like, I look at my little girl self who's raised by a single mom, and I was like, how do I create a good life for myself? And how do we make money? And I was so hungry that I was willing to listen to anybody. I didn't know better. I had no idea. I'm like, okay, give me this book, give me to this event. And so this is what happens. People are growing up and they're consuming all this information. And then after a while, after 5-10 years, and they built something, some of it could be completely out of integrity. And we don't have a lot of people saying, this is right, this is wrong. And so again, it's like the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats. Like it's just like, and so that's why we are so passionate about the work you're doing, but it has caused us to look internal and go, are we doing things?
Yeah, make changes. Like that's the reality is we're not perfect. We're learning, we're growing.
Yeah.
We have to be humble and say, like, we've had to make changes with how we run business because of what we've seen. And that's we're okay saying that because I'd question your questioning of us if you always just think we do everything right.
You know? It's interesting. I believe that truth creates a reflection point, but also an inflection point, because you're looking at, it's like when you had clients who were overweight or didn't have strength, and you tell them, look, you are 20 pounds overweight, or you are borderline obese. When you tell them that, when they look in the mirror, that is a reflection for them to see the reality. And then they have the inward, how do I change that? I need to talk to Jake. I need to be committed. Or when you're on stage, when you're telling people, I tell this to entrepreneurs all the time, is the truth. When you see these guys, the hustle monkeys, and they're selling the sizzle, and it's like, well, they have all these followers, they get all these comments, it must be right. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And this is why I feel compelled to talk about it as a lawyer. I'm like, I know this is not only fraud, but this is mass deception at its finest. The people who are hearing it on the periphery, right, like you guys, now you have an inflection like, oh, he's talking about this. We should see if we're doing that. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's less about beating that person up. It's really less about that. It's to inform and educate. Like, what a great example.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we have such confidence in the way we say it. I won't say anything publicly unless I know the truth. I have receipts. I can document. I'm not going to speculate on someone. I could take my phone out and show you right now the number of DMs I have in my personal page where people are like, you need to expose this person. I'm like, I don't need to do anything. But we get a lot of inquiries. It's always comes down to the truth.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's good, man. Yeah, we'll have you back here. There's one final thing. If there's a lot of things we covered, but for that entrepreneur that's getting going, they're figuring out their ways. Maybe they have some momentum behind them, but they're listening right now, and there's one thing you can leave them with to really like just speak to them. What would that be?
You have to think everyday do with the long-term result out there. The result is out there. You don't chase results every day. Chase the do, like the iteration. If you are launching a training business, whatever it is, how well trained are you? How well can you articulate your skill set if you're in sales? Like, what are you offering? Fine tune that every day. Don't chase the result every day. The result could be a week from now, a month from now. That's the most important thing. I want to be the best lawyer in my domain. I'm not a good family law attorney, okay? I'm not a good criminal defense lawyer. I'm not a good patent lawyer. But what I do, no one does it better than I do. That's why people come to me. And I don't need to say that on the speaker. The results show. Who my clients are show. So get to be the best, or at least be on the way there. The journey, you have to respect the journey. That's I think, the bottom line. Don't chase a result. And I want to have carrots along the way. You have to, like, reward yourself. But you gotta do the small things every day to get to the big picture.
Okay. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Till next time.
Awesome.